The stars were silent, too silent. Out there, beyond the shattered hulls of dead fleets, a single human ship drifted against the dark. One vessel, facing an empire that had devoured entire civilizations without slowing. To the galaxy, it was nothing but a speck of defiance. To the humans on board, it was the last line between survival and extinction. They knew the enemy's numbers. They knew the hopeless odds. But they also knew something the galaxy had never understood. Humanity does not bow. The enemy expected surrender. Instead, they would witness what happens when cornered humans make their stand. Because sometimes, the smallest spark in the void is enough to ignite a fire no empire can contain. And tonight, humanity would decide whether the galaxy remembers them as victims, or as something far more terrifying. The question was simple. Would the stars ever forget what was about to happen? It was the kind of dawn that only existed at the edge of colonized space. Pale light stretched across the barren soil of Eidolon 3, catching on the metal bones of unfinished towers, half-built dreams of a human future. Commander Elias Kyle rose before the sun crested the horizon. His morning ritual was the same as it had been for years. Check the perimeter sensors, sip bitter ration coffee, and walk the fence line with his dog-eared notebook. He was an officer, yes, but more than that, he was a builder. The kind of man who believed humanity wasn't meant to hide behind Earth's ruins, but to carve new stories into alien skies. To most, his life here would seem unbearably quiet. Farming modules, stubborn colonists, endless repairs. Yet Elias found meaning in it. He believed the colony's survival wasn't just about machines and food, it was about showing that humans could belong among the stars. But even on quiet mornings, there were cracks in the peace. The miners had gone silent in Sector 12 last week. An entire team vanished. No signs of struggle, no distress calls. Just gone. Elias had pushed for an investigation. The council told him to be patient. Supplies were stretched thin. Ships couldn't be risked on wild chases. But Elias had spent enough time in the void to recognize the rhythm of disaster. The silence felt wrong. It felt like a shadow at the edge of vision, too close, too deliberate. That morning, as he tightened a relay valve on the water recyclers, a sound broke through the static of the comms array. A signal, thin, distorted, almost like a voice carried on the windless vacuum. He froze, coffee mug still in hand as the message pulsed again. It wasn't human. He didn't know how he knew, only that his bones told him so. The cadence, the unnatural resonance, it carried something alien, something that had no business speaking across a human frequency. Elias logged it, filed it, sent it up the chain. But deep down, he understood what the others refused to say. Colonies didn't vanish because of bad luck, and signals like this didn't happen by chance. He walked back toward the colony dome, the rising sun painting the sky in molten gold. Around him, settlers stirred, children chasing each other down narrow corridors, engineers cursing at overloaded circuits, farmers arguing over water rights. Ordinary, fragile life. The very thing humanity had fought so hard to protect after Earth nearly tore itself apart. And yet, Elias couldn't shake the weight pressing against his chest. He thought of the history books, the alien empires who had burned worlds to ash, the civilizations swallowed by silence. Humanity had always been overlooked, dismissed as fragile, latecomers to the stars. But if this signal was what he feared, then humanity's turn had come. He paused at the dome's entrance and looked back one last time at the endless plain. The towers gleamed faintly, skeletons reaching toward the sky, unfinished but stubborn. This was his home. These were his people. And whatever was coming through that signal, it would test every ounce of courage humanity had left. For now, Elias said nothing. He let the settlers laugh, Let them dream. Let them believe the frontier was still theirs. But in his gut, he knew the truth. The quiet life of Eidolon 3 was over. The universe was about to knock on humanity's door. And when it did, Elias vowed one thing. The galaxy would finally learn what it meant when humans refused to break. The signal didn't stop. For 3 nights it bled into the comms like a heartbeat, steady, unnatural, impossible to trace. Elias hardly slept. He pored over every line of static, every flicker of distortion. It wasn't a beacon, not exactly. It was a pattern, and patterns meant intelligence. By the 4th night, the Colony Council could no longer ignore him. A meeting was called inside the dome's central chamber, its walls lined with weary faces, people who had gambled everything on Eidolon 3. "Commander Kyle," Counselor Drez said, his voice brittle with age and fear. "You claim this signal is a threat, but threats demand intent. All we have is noise." Elias set his jaw. He tapped a sequence on the console, and the alien cadence filled the chamber once more. The sound sent ripples of unease across the room. It was neither voice nor machine, something between, an intelligence brushing the edges of comprehension. "It's not random," Elias said. "It's reconnaissance. They're mapping us." A murmur ran through the settlers. Mothers pulled children close. Engineers exchanged uneasy glances. Drez shook his head. "We can't afford panic. We can't waste resources on shadows." "If you're wrong, if I'm wrong," Elias cut in, his voice like steel, "then we lose a week of supplies. If I'm right, and we do nothing, we lose everything." Silence fell. For a long moment, the only sound was the alien signal pulsing like a second heartbeat in the room. Finally, Drez sighed. "You'll have 3 patrol ships. No more 3 ships, against whatever intelligence lay behind that signal." Elias swallowed his frustration, nodded once, and walked out. The patrol ships departed at dusk, engines glowing faint blue against the void. Elias commanded from the Resolute, a vessel barely larger than a corvette, its hull scarred from a dozen old battles. With him were 2 younger captains, Harlow and Vela, fresh out of training academies, eyes sharp but untested. "Commander," Vela said over comms, "readings are faint, but there's movement ahead. Could be asteroid drift." Elias adjusted the scanners. The patterns didn't match asteroids. Too deliberate, too slow. "Form up," he ordered. "Shields low, weapons cold. Let them think we're blind." The void stretched, stars pinpricks against infinity. Then, without warning, the shadows resolved into form. Ships, not human. They slid out of the darkness like predators, sleek, angular, their surfaces shifting as if cloaked in rippling distortion. Dozens at first, then hundreds. "By the void," Harlow whispered. "That's an armada." Elias's blood ran cold. This wasn't a scouting force. It was a fleet large enough to erase Eidolon 3 from existence. "Hold positions," Elias snapped. "Do not engage. We need intel, not martyrdom." The alien ships did not fire. They drifted, silent, watching. And then, as if to mock him, a signal burst across the comms. Not static this time. Words. Alien, guttural, incomprehensible, yet laced with unmistakable intent. A challenge. Elias's gut twisted. Record everything, then pull back. Slow, steady. Let's not show our teeth just yet. But as the Resolute turned, the alien ships moved. Not an attack, an encirclement. "Commander," Vela said, voice tight with panic. "They're hurting us." The void closed like a fist. Dozens of alien vessels locked them into formation. No escape vectors. No jump coordinates viable. Elias made his choice. "Transmit everything back to Eidolon, all channels. If we go dark, they'll know what's coming." He slammed a fist on the console. "And arm weapons. If they want to test humanity, let's give them a taste." The first salvo came swift as lightning. Alien beams slashed across the Resolute's shields, burning white-hot. Systems screamed, metal groaned. The patrol ships shuddered under the assault. But humans did not break. "Return fire!" Elias roared. The void erupted in chaos. Human cannons spat furious bursts of plasma, tearing into alien hulls. Sparks flared, one enemy ship cracking apart in silence, debris scattering like fireflies. The patrol ships wove through impossible gaps, exploiting angles the alien formation hadn't anticipated. It wasn't elegance, it was desperation. Improvised maneuvers, reckless bursts of thrust, weapons run hot beyond safe limits. But it worked. For every volley the aliens unleashed, the humans turned chaos into advantage. Shields flickered, engines failed, yet they clawed down 3 ships, then 4. The galaxy had underestimated humans before, and it would again. Still, the numbers were overwhelming. Vela's ship took a direct hit. Elias watched in horror as her hull split, atmosphere venting into the abyss. Her last transmission crackled through the comms. One word, choked but resolute. "Fight." The signal cut. Her ship vanished in a blossom of fire. Rage burned in Elias's chest. He forced the pain down, turned it into precision. "Harlow, follow my lead. Aim for their joints, where the distortion fields overlap." Together, the 2 surviving ships executed a maneuver no simulation would have ever approved. They cut power, drifted dead in space, then reignited engines at the last instant, slamming broadsides into the alien formation. Plasma fire shredded through 3 more enemy vessels, the distortion fields collapsing under the unexpected assault. But the victory was costly. Harlow's ship spiraled, systems collapsing, her desperate voice fading through static. "Go, Elias, get them home!" And then she was gone too. Only the Resolute remained. Alone, bleeding fire, shields shattered, its captain staring down a fleet large enough to annihilate worlds. Elias sent one last transmission to Eidolon, voice steady despite the devastation. "This is Commander Kyle. We've confirmed hostile contact. They are not here to negotiate. Prepare the colony for siege. Humanity stands." The comms cut as alien beams tore through the Resolute's hull. Metal screamed, flames roared. Elias gripped the controls, teeth clenched, refusing to let fear be his final memory. "Not today," he whispered. And in the blaze of ruin, he triggered the last resort. A manual overload of the ship's reactor. The explosion tore through the void, a blinding supernova of human defiance. The alien fleet staggered, formation broken, dozens of ships shredded in the shockwave. Silence fell. One ship against hundreds. One human against extinction. The galaxy would never forget what happened in that sector. And back on Eidolon 3, the settlers listened to Elias Kyle's final message, their faces pale with fear and fire. The universe had revealed its hand. The war for humanity's survival had begun. The colony outpost trembled as alarms wailed through the dome. The settlers had heard Elias Kyle's last transmission, and though grief tore through them like a storm, there was no time to mourn, because the alien fleet was coming. Through the atmosphere's thin haze, streaks of fire marked their descent. Dozens of ships, hundreds, each one armed with power far beyond anything the settlers had. Inside the command center, engineers scrambled over failing systems. Farmers turned militiamen gripped rifles with shaking hands. Children huddled in the shelters below. Counselor Drez stood frozen, staring at the sky as if sheer disbelief might make the enemy vanish. But one voice cut through the panic. "We're not dead yet." Captain Mara Kessler, Kyle's protege, slammed her fist onto the console. Her eyes burned, not with fear, but with fury. Elias had raised her, trained her, trusted her, and if he had given his life buying them time, she would not waste it. "Patch me through to every channel," she ordered. The comms crackled alive, her voice echoing across the dome, through every corridor, into every terrified ear. "People of Eidolon, listen to me. The galaxy thinks this is our end. They think humans break when the odds are impossible. But we are still here. We are alive, and we will make them remember us." A silence fell. Then, one by one, settlers raised their heads. A spark lit in eyes dulled by despair. Mara leaned forward, her voice a growl. "Arm every defense we have. Power the rail cannons, load the drones, reroute every last watt of energy into shields. I don't care if the lights go out. Let them come. We'll show them what humanity does when cornered." The dome darkened as power diverted, plunging the outpost into shadow. Only the faint glow of weapons systems lit the steel corridors. And then, the first alien salvo struck. A beam of energy carved across the colony's shields, searing white, shaking every bolt in the structure. Sparks rained from failing consoles. The settlers staggered, some crying out, others clutching rifles tighter. "Hold steady!" Mara barked. The rail cannons answered, launching slugs of tungsten with bone-shattering force. The rounds tore into alien hulls, smashing through distortion fields with brute defiance. 2 ships faltered, spiraling into the dirt in burning trails. The aliens adapted instantly, formations tightening, fire raining in measured precision. Humans adapted faster. Teams of engineers rerouted coolant pipes into improvised missile launchers. Farmers strapped explosives to harvest drones and sent them screaming into enemy lines. Children too young to fight ran ammunition through smoke-choked corridors, their small hands carrying humanity's last hope. It was chaos. Brutal, desperate, ingenious chaos. And it was working. The aliens had never seen an enemy fight like this, turning scrap metal into weapons, turning fear into fuel. Every loss only sharpened human defiance. But the tide could not hold forever. The alien flagship descended at last, blotting out the sun. Larger than a city, its surface glowed with energy weapons powerful enough to vaporize the entire dome in a single strike. Counselor Drez whispered, "We're finished." Mara's eyes locked on the behemoth, her jaw set. "Not while I breathe." She keyed into the colony's last surviving warship. An ancient transport, half-rusted, its engines unstable. No one had dared fly it for years. Until now. "I need a pilot," she said. No one moved. Then a young mechanic, barely 20, stepped forward. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "Kyle believed in us." "I'll take it." Mara clasped his shoulder. "Then make it count." The transport roared into the sky, engines screaming against gravity. Its shields barely flickered to life as alien fire tore across its hull. It wouldn't survive long, but it didn't need to. Inside, the mechanic steered straight for the flagship. His breath came ragged, sweat stinging his eyes, every console screaming warnings. "Come on! Just a little closer." The colony watched in silence as the tiny, battered ship hurtled toward the alien giant. The flagship's cannons glowed, charging for the kill shot. And then, impact. The transport's reactor, overloaded beyond safety, detonated in a supernova of fire and steel. The explosion ripped through the flagship's core, tearing its vast hull apart. Shockwaves cascaded across the battlefield, alien formations scattering in chaos. For a moment, silence reigned. The settlers stared in stunned disbelief as the impossible unfolded. One human ship. One sacrifice. And the flagship of an empire was gone. Mara's voice broke the silence, fierce and unyielding. "You see? This is who we are. They think us fragile, but we are fire. They think us prey, but we are hunters. They think us broken, but we rise. Always." The aliens wavered, their formations faltering. For the first time, hesitation rippled through their lines. Humanity had struck back. Against all odds, against reason, against fear itself. The galaxy would never look at them the same way again. And though the battle was far from over, one truth blazed brighter than any star. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Not now, not ever. The stars had gone quiet again. In the aftermath of the battle, the void felt impossibly still, like the universe itself had paused to acknowledge what had just taken place. The alien armada, so sure of their dominance, drifted in fractured silence, their once perfect formation reduced to debris fields and scattered wrecks. What had moments ago been an overwhelming storm of firepower now looked like the remnants of a nightmare dissolving at dawn. Humanity had survived. The crew sat in stunned silence aboard their battered ship. Consoles sparked, bulkheads groaned, and the air reeked of scorched metal, but the heartbeat of the vessel, the humans who had fought within it, still pulsed strong. Captain Leora leaned against her chair, the weight of exhaustion pressing into her bones. Her uniform was torn, her hands blistered, yet her eyes held that strange, unbreakable fire, the kind that no alien empire could ever understand. Around her, the crew exchanged glances, disbelief, relief, grief, and pride all tangled together in raw, human expression. The aliens had expected surrender. They had expected fear. Instead, they met humanity's defiance. Word of the impossible victory spread faster than light, first across the emergency channels, then across the colonies, then leaping from system to system until the entire frontier echoed with it. The humans fought back, and they won. On distant worlds, miners paused in their tunnels, children looked to the skies, and elders whispered old stories about Earth's resilience. Farmers on new colonies, soldiers in forgotten outposts, and settlers who had always lived with one eye on the horizon, all of them felt something awaken in their chests. Hope. For too long, humanity had been seen as fragile newcomers in the galactic stage, tolerated but underestimated. Now, the galaxy would see them differently. Not as prey, not as subjects, but as equals, perhaps even as a force that could not be caged. The cost was heavy. Leora knew it. Names would be remembered not as survivors, but as sacrifices. She walked the ruined corridors of her ship, past sealed chambers and flickering lights, whispering a quiet promise to each fallen soul, that their courage would not be forgotten, that humanity's story was still being written, and that this chapter would echo forever. In the stillness, she recalled something her father once told her, back when Earth itself had seemed so impossibly distant. We are small, yes, but we are stubborn, and sometimes that is enough to change everything. She had lived to see those words proven true. As repairs began and signals were sent, Leora stood at the viewport, gazing out at the fractured battlefield. Alien wreckage glinted like broken stars, and beyond it stretched the infinite void, uncharted, dangerous, yet undeniably theirs to face. For the first time in generations, she didn't just see darkness out there. She saw possibility. The galaxy would never forget this day. Not because humanity had destroyed an enemy fleet, but because of what it meant. That no matter the odds, no matter the empires that rose and fell, no matter how small humanity seemed in the vastness of the cosmos, they endured. They adapted. They fought with a courage that defied reason. And when the universe demanded their surrender, humanity answered with something far greater. They answered with hope.